Hi, everyone. We will get started in just a few minutes. Thanks for joining today. We're super excited to have you on here. I'm the coordinator for this program with the Study Abroad office. So if you have any questions about applying for this program or whatnot, you can come and ask me those. And I will let Susan and Carol introduce themselves. They are the faculty directors for this program.
Hi there, everybody. It's nice to see some faces that I recognize, Amanda in particular, but welcome Avi and Rishik and Emily. We're super excited that you're interested in this program. So my name is Susan Carice, and I am the director of all the experiential programs for Skedal. And they include an India GIE, that's a global intensive experience, and the Israel West Bank GIE, and the Shakespeare GIE, which you may have heard about and I'm going to talk about later today. And this new one that I've just recently developed because right now we can't go abroad. So I am a cultural anthropologist by training, but I have a 30-year passion for liberal education and reading the great books. And that's kind of how I fit into Skedal. I've also, for many years, been traveling abroad with students, both high school and college students, and also doing lots of teaching in the wilderness around the United States. So that's kind of my background. And the beauty of this program is that it blends all of those interests of mine. And then I am a mother of college students, and I've seen some of the struggles that they've had to sort of find meaning both during college and just as they leave college. And so that's kind of the impetus to developing this program, which I'll talk about more in a minute. But it's kind of watching that process and thinking, how could I serve students and learn with them about seeking meaning in a life? So that's a little bit about me. And then I have the joy of working with Dr. McNamara.
Hi, everyone. Carol McNamara. I am the Associate Director for Public Programs and at the School of Civic and Economic Thought and Leadership. And I'm a professor of political thought and political philosophy and politics and literature. And I am lucky enough to work with Susan Carice, Dr. Carice, on these programs, which I think are really one of the most important foundational programs that Skedal offers. It offers students the opportunity to go out into the world and sorry, not into the well, sometimes out into the world, but not right now. But up to a different location, to a place to read and think and commune together about ideas, and it's been one of the. There are a lot of highlights for me in teaching in this school and teaching and being at ASU, but this has been one of the highlights for me, and a good way to meet and really get to know students and what they care about and what's important to them. So I'll leave it to Susan or Dr. Carice to explain the rest to you.
Thanks, Carol. Mostly I think it makes sense to do a bit of Q&A with you guys because you probably are, you have your own direction that you want to go with this, but I thought I would just to fire us up and thinking about this course, Leading a Life of Meaning, Liberal Learning, not liberal education, but liberal learning, and you, because I really think that together we're going to uncover things about you and us. And so I thought I'd read just a paragraph from Plato's Apology. So as some of you may know, Socrates is on trial and he is defending himself. And he says to those listening, genuinely, this is why I teach what I teach. If I tell you that this is the greatest good for a human being, the greatest good for a human being, to engage every day in arguments about virtue and other things you have heard me talk about, examining both myself and others, and if I tell you that the unexamined life is not worth living for a human being, you will be even less likely to believe what I am saying. But that's the way it is, he says, gentlemen, but all of you, as I claim, though it's not easy to convince you of it. So the impetus behind this 5-day, well, it's actually 6, I want you to be thinking about these topics for 7-day course, is that living the examined life. And I've chosen a range of readings from different disciplines, but mostly sort of normal great books curricula. Aristotle, Plutarch, Cicero, these are excerpts, and we read them in the course during the our time up at this camp in Prescott. But then some moderns as well. We're going to read a little bit of Viktor Frankl. We're going to read some Toni Morrison. We're going to read some Marge Percy and a little bit of poetry, and really kind of an eclectic mix to examine questions. Each day we're going to look at one topic, and we're going to look at love one day. We're going to look at community and identity one day. We're going to look at vocation, job, work, leisure. Why do I do the things that I wake up and do the things that I do every day? That's kind of how it's organized. The assessment for the course will be very organic to it. I have learned through experience that it's not a great idea to have a big, huge paper at the end when you're ready to start summer vacation. So there will be time in each day for you to go and reflect on the topics that we have read and then discussed as a group. And you'll kind of have I'm not going to call it a workbook because that sounds kind of silly, but essentially it will be a binder in which you reflect. And this will be a document that you'll have for a long time, maybe the rest of your life, as you thought about these big questions. Really integral to the course is the place. This isn't a classroom. It's very, very intentionally a cabin-y camp adjacent to the Prescott National Forest. So there's lots of time to hike together, to reflect on the trails about the important questions that we're exploring, to sit under a beautiful ponderosa and contemplate. So I really don't see it as, somebody asked, well, can't you just do this by Zoom? 100% absolutely not. The real importance is being in this beautiful place together. And on that topic, it's also something that Carol and I have kind of seen emerge is a really tight cohort in the courses. So we're hoping to have about 20 students in the course, 20, maybe 30 at the most. But because we're with each other 24/7, we get to know each other pretty well, and talking about these deep issues, it's pretty special. And students have gone on to do other experiential trips with us and to be majors and minors in Skettle. And as you guys, some of you know who are familiar with Skettle, it's kind of a major with a difference at ASU. And we think that partly it's these cohorts that form during these special experiences that make it a little bit different. And then of course you go on to do all sorts of things with Dr. McNamara, including the public programs, and she coaches you for scholarships in the future. So it's just a really great time to get a mentor too. And then the last thing I want to say before I open it up to you is, I really think this is important. I'd love to hear from you, but this year has been very challenging for everybody. But I think it's forced us to ask sort of why we do what we do and what matters, because suddenly we've been all confronted with the mortality of others, and that means our own mortality. And so we should take time, and especially you should take time when you're in your early 20s to consider what my purpose is, how will I be of use on this planet? So that said, it's serious, it's kind of intellectual summer camp, and it's really special. So I encourage you to apply. Lindsay will talk in a little bit about the application process. But why don't I open it up to questions now, just so we can make the most of our short time together. Any questions? Cost. Who pays for this? The amazing thing, the amazing thing is Skedal. Because we believe in this so much, we're using our valuable monetary resources to invest, nearly $1,000 in having you have this experience. So that's that. Lindsay, there is the registration cost with study abroad, right?
Yes, so there is a $50 application fee, and that's for any of our programs that go through the study abroad office. But Schedule does cover the rest of that program fee for you. One thing to keep in mind is that Schedule does not cover any cancellation costs. So if you decide to cancel the day before the program because another vacation came up, or something came up, does not count with, like, if you were to get COVID or something. But if you were to cancel and withdraw from the program after you've already committed, you would be responsible for paying that money back to Schedule. So just keep that in mind, that even though program fee is covered, it is very serious when you do commit to it, and we want to make sure that you're actually going to be able to be there before you commit.
Mm-hmm.
And
the process is go ahead, Carol.
I was just going to go ahead with process. I was just going to put Amanda on the spot for a minute and ask her to talk about just a little about her experience with the Shakespeare course for the others.
Okay, yeah, that sounds like a great idea, if you don't mind, Amanda. But first, I just wanted to say that this is slightly, you do have to put a little bit of work into applying, and that is, first you have to go to the Study Abroad website and apply. There's some forms, because we are responsible for your health and well-being for the week. There's a health form, and then there are COVID related forms. And just to cover that briefly, if you or your parents, which everybody should, have concerns about being in a group in the age of COVID, with the very astute risk managers at the Study Abroad office, we and Pine Rock Camp in Prescott, where we'll be, we've developed protocols around, how many people can be in a cabin, how we eat 6 feet apart, that we wear masks the entire time. All of these protocols will be in place, probably no matter what happens with COVID, because they're protocols developed for this semester. So that makes the experience a little bit different, but I have learned, and Carol and I learned when we did the Shakespeare course during COVID in December at Pine Rock Camp, that it can be done. And it's so rewarding. Even if we're 6 feet apart, we're together in the flesh, which is really great. So, and the other thing I just wanted to say quickly is, this would be a fabulous thing to invite a few friends to do with you if you're a little nervous. And if you want to spend time with special people in your life exploring really important questions, it would be a great thing to do with a few friends, even if they're not Scuttle majors. So there's that.
Let me just add that that the course that there was that these courses are always sort of special opportunities to talk with people. It's not like being in a class where we talk for an hour or an hour 15, and then we go back home and do more reading and talk again in a couple of days. But it's the opportunity to converse and to pursue those conversations out into the woods, at dinner. We found in December at the Shakespeare course that we just rotated. Everybody had dinner sort of was, it wasn't 5 people or 8 people at a table, but we had dinner talking to different people all the time, depending on with whom we were conversing, walking to the dining hall, or with whom we'd been sort of pondering a particular issue in a play. So these conversations go on all day, and we provide opportunities for campfires and performance. And if they're just, it's a really, really special and different opportunity. And even with COVID, in fact, maybe especially in light of COVID, it gave students an opportunity to be together in a way that just hasn't been possible. It was a really special time for me. So it gave me a chance to be with students in a way I hadn't been able to before. So, Amanda?
And if you'd like to get a sense of the day-to-day, I'd be more than happy to send you all the syllabus so that you can have very concretely, okay, what do we do? When do I have to get up, and when do I go to bed? And we're going to show some films. So I'd be more than happy to send that along to you, so you really know what you're getting into. The other quick thing that I wanted to say is this is a post-spring. So for many of you, it will involve an override. So that's just another piece of bureaucratic logistics that you have to navigate your way through. Again, it's a little bit odious, but in the big picture, not too bad if you just do the forms and step by step. And Lindsay is amazing at coaching students and reminding them to fill out their stuff. So Amanda, do you want to just give a little thought from about your experience with Shakespeare? Honest, good, bad, ugly?
Sure. So I took the Shakespeare class up at Camp Pine Rock about 2 years ago. I don't know, fall 2019, before I was even a freshman. And I loved the class. First of all, it was a great introduction to meet other people that had similar interests as me. And I made a lot of friends that I've still maintained to today. And it really made me feel like a community as a Scuttle major as well. One thing I really loved about the course, kind of like Dr. McNamara was saying, there is a significant amount of reading, but it's not like homework. Since our classroom is kind of 24 hours a day, the reading happens with the group. So it's not like you're sent to your room to go do some reading and then come back and discuss. You do all of the reading as a group. That's also very helpful because you have Dr. McNamara and Dr. Carice to help explain the readings as you go through. So you have a very firm foundation for understanding the text that you're reading. You don't have to do any heavy interpretive work on your own. If you have questions, you can ask them while you're right there. And also there was a lot, I know Dr. Carice said that she would send the schedule, but there was a lot of fun things that happened outside the schedule. I'd say those were some of the most foundation or formative memories that I have from that course. Like for example, there was one night we were there that we heard there was going to be a meteor shower, So a bunch of us got together and we kind of hiked out to a field area next to the camp, and we were trying to watch the meteor showers together, and there were strange animal noises and bats, and we kind of got to experience the wilderness together, which is a really great way to kind of grow in your friendships with people. And it makes you more able to open up to them and be honest with them. And I think that's very important for a learning community as well as a social community. So highly recommend the course and structure of the course.
Thanks. And I'm just gonna, if it sounds like you have to be some sort of, outdoorsy, I don't know, just amazing outdoorsy person, you actually don't. I've had students on these trips who have never taken a hike in the wilderness, and they enjoy this opportunity to be in nature. So I don't really think that you have to have had that experience, just like you don't have to have had necessarily experience in the liberal arts or reading great books. Carol and I have had a great experience in December. We had a student who, through this kind of random process, ended up in this Shakespeare course, and he was a student of electrical engineering at ASU, the most, technical kind of mind. And here he was grappling with Shakespeare kind of for the first time, and he was shaky and nervous about talking at first, but by the end, right, our student was he was right in there with students who had been studying these types of texts for a while. So I don't think either of those things, not being an outdoorsy kind of person or not being a great books kind of person should dissuade anybody. It's a great opportunity to encounter newness, not only in texts and ideas, but also in outdoor education. So, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I was just going to say that this is the sort of thing we all read, and we all should think about what we read. And so it's not as though Susan and I sort of lecture during these sessions. We read, as Amanda was saying, we read parts of the text together. We take turns reading, and then we ask questions, and we discuss these texts together. And what we want to understand is where these texts are going to take you. What are the ideas? What are the important ideas of these texts? What can we learn from them that are going to inform? We think these texts are so important, and we think that texts like these are so important that they can really help you how to think about leadership and politics when we're reading Shakespeare, or how we truly lead our lives, just the way that Socrates says in the passage from the Apology that Susan read, that we can really think about what we do with our lives, and how we do it, and those conversations have been really amazing and insightful, and I think really useful. But I also don't want you to think like, oh, this is a heavy, ponderous. It's important, it's serious, but it's just also really enlightening and wonderfully fun.
Just for truth in advertising, there are going to be, because of the difference in the material for this course versus Shakespeare, you're going to do some solos where you go off and read a passage by yourself, just for truth in advertising, or read a passage with another person. There's going to be a sort of a mixed pedagogy. Mostly it's going to be Socratic discussion and reading together, but there will be some times where you will go off on your own and read and reflect, just because the subject matter is a little bit different than Shakes. Rishi, Emily, any questions or that you'd like to either send via chat or Avi, I know you wondered about whether you could take both, and yes, we'd love to have you. Carol and I are doing both. Paul Carice, who's the director of Skedel, will come up and give a little talk at this one, and then at the Shakespeare, in the Shakespeare program, we have some special guests who will join us. So just in terms of dates, I'm going to remind you that it's the 3rd through the 8th. So that the 3rd is graduation. We leave kind of the afternoon of graduation and return the following Saturday. So it's a Monday afternoon through Saturday evening, essentially, is when you would get back. We travel by bus up to Prescott together, although socially distanced. I think there are a couple of questions. Oh, when will the applications open up for this program? Lindsay.
Hopefully in the next week or two. We're just waiting for some final things from leadership, and then we'll have to get the budget approved, and then we'll open applications. So keep an eye out for that. If you haven't, you're going to want to make sure you fill out the student interest list, which I'll send that to you now. And then if you're on that email list, I will send a message to you all once applications do open. And the application is going to be due April 10th. So you'll have some time.
I might also say that, you know, we were a smaller group because of COVID in December, but there were a lot of protocols that we had to observe, but we were able to do it. We were able to do it safely. We were able to be safe and successful with regard to the virus. By that point, because we're educators, Susan and I will be vaccinated, so we won't hopefully be a factor there, but and who knows, maybe even by then there'll be enough vaccine for some of you to be vaccinated. It's not entirely clear, but that might be possible. But we found that with all the testing and all the careful rule following, that it was very safe, and that we could really proceed in a way that everyone was comfortable with.
Yeah, that's
so tell your parents that.
Yeah, I mean, that's really our primary concern, is your safety. And we would not do this if we didn't feel very confident that we could do it safely. So you would have to get a negative test within 72 hours before we leave. And there will be other things, but that's why we can do it safely, because we follow this list of rules. That I did want to say one other thing. Often this attracts students who are in Barrett. It doesn't have to be, but we can do an honors contract for this course, and I can explain at a later date what that would involve, but it would still be organic to the course. So don't think that you're going to be working on this, writing a dissertation through summer vacation. The course ends on the 8th. You have a short reflection that will finish up your little workbook, for lack of a better word, for the final assessment. And then I'm just going to add another thing, and that is Carol McNamara I teach part-time at ASU, but Carol is there all the time. She's an amazing mentor, and she writes letters of recommendation, etc. We just learned that that one of our students is who is an alum of these programs will be moving forward as a finalist in the Truman scholarship running. And we had an alum from our Israel West Bank program who was a Rhodes Scholarship finalist. So it's a great time to really get to know two professors who are dedicated to writing letters of recommendation and mentoring students through ASU and beyond. All right, with that, unless anybody has any more questions, or Carol or Lindsay would like to add something, I think we should say, oh, just grab some friends. We really want to get these fully enrolled, and it's hard because people are anxious about COVID. And so, and it would just make it especially fun if you went on this little journey, because that's what it is. We're not going very far from Phoenix, but it is a journey, and you have to be prepared for the unknown. But it would be fun to go into that unknown with some friends.
I'll send out a recording after this too, so feel free to forward it on to your friends and you have any that might be interested.
It's really so worth doing. It's just, and it's a great way to end the semester too. So you get 3 credits for a kind of reading vacation. It's not a vacation, but it really is. It's something different. It's a different way to learn, and we really love it. And we love spending time with students in this different kind of learning environment. It's so much fun. So yeah, tell your friends about it, bring them along, and come and sort of get to know everybody.
And
Amanda,
just
are you
let
gonna
us know
come?
if you have questions. As we move forward, just let us know. We're very available.
Yep, absolutely. Thanks for joining us, and thanks for considering the program. It will be really, you won't regret it. I've never heard anyone say, I wish I hadn't spent a week up in the mountains where it's beautiful and people gave me books and I made good friends. It just doesn't happen. So.
All right. Hope to see you in May.
Okay.
Bye.
Thanks, everyone.